SAA State Championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder.
Good morning. We're going to call the Ag and Natural Resources Committee to order. Oh man, I'm sorry guys. I got a cold. Welcome to everybody here and online. Gentlemen, let's remove our hats if we got them, and remind everybody, including myself, to shut our cell phones to silent. And with that, I will ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Representative Goodwin. Here. Hunt.
Here.
Ismay.
Here.
Ladner.
Here.
May. Here. Knowles.
Here.
Peterson, excused. Rice, excused. Schubeck.
Here.
Van Dypen.
Here.
Whitman.
Here.
Gosh. Here. Overwig.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, we need to approve our minutes of the last meeting. Okay. It is moved by Representative Gosh, seconded by Representative Ladner to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are approved. I want to remind testifiers to sign in the back, ensure lobbyists are wearing badges. Remind testifiers that handouts are to be distributed by our pages. And with that, Pages, why don't you come up and introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and hopefully where you're trying to go.
I'm Grant Cutler from Claremont. I'm a senior in high school, and when I'm done with high school, I'll be joining the Air Force.
Good job.
I'm Aubrey Bretlinger. I'm a senior in high school at Stevens in Rapid City, and I'm going to DSU next year to major in animation.
Okay, very nice. Now, I think I have one introduction from the committee. Would like a special request there. Representative Schubeck, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to introduce my wife, Megan, and my daughter, Anna. My wife's looking at me like she doesn't want to be introduced, but please welcome them. And then I'd also like to welcome my neighbors and fellow Centerville people, Dwayne Carlson and Dana Knutson. So welcome them too. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Okay, I want to remind everybody that all testimony and questions will go through the chair. And with that, we're going to get to work this morning. We're going to change our schedule around a little bit, and the first bill we're going to take is HB 1277, require that campgrounds and campground additions, alterations, and modifications comply with National Fire Protection Association standards. Is there any proponent testimony? Welcome, Representative.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. There are no proponents today. The prime sponsor is an opponent, which is an unusual situation. Sometimes when an idea comes to you, you work to make that idea better, and as you work through the process, sometimes you don't find an answer that's acceptable. So I'm here to ask the committee to table this bill.
Sure. Representative Gosh.
Move to table.
Second.
It has been moved by Representative Gosh, seconded by Representative Hunt to table House Bill 1277. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Goodwin. Yeah. Hunt.
Aye.
Ismay.
Aye.
Ladner.
Aye.
May. Knowles.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Rice, excused. Schubeck.
Aye.
Van Dypen.
Aye.
Whitman.
Aye.
Gosh.
Aye.
Overwig.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have, excuse me, 12 yeas and 1 excused.
Okay, receiving the amount of votes that needed. House Bill 1277 is tabled. Now, we'll go into the next bill, HB 1269, require that manufacturers of agriculture equipment allow an independent repair provider or an owner to make certain repairs to agricultural equipment. The chair is going to, just to give a heads up to the committee, we're going to give 15 minutes proponent, 15 minutes opponent, and so the committee knows I have given one testifier who could not get his lobbyist badge this morning because Secretary of State's office is not open. He'll do it right afterwards, so I'm going to let him testify without a badge. So with that, proponent testimony on House Bill 1269. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Liz May, District 27. House Bill 1269 protects the rights of farmers and equipment owners to repair the agriculture equipment they own or choose a local independent repair provider. The bill ensures reasonable access to diagnostic tools, software, repair information that manufacturers currently resist. Mr. Chair, I have another bill that I need to go testify on, and so I am going to turn over any rebuttal to the proponents.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you,
Okay.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So further proponent testimony then on House Bill 1269. Welcome, sir. Please introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Willie Cade. I am the CEO of an organization called Graceful Solutions. I'm also the director of the Theo Brown Society. My grandfather, Theo Brown, was the chief engineer for John Deere in 1925 when John Deere made the decision to sell tractors commercially. My dad worked for International Harvester, so I come from a divided family, both red and green. 2 weeks ago, the Trump administration did something I thought was pretty remarkable. The EPA, the USDA, and the SBA jointly declared that manufacturers have been misusing the Clean Air Act to inhibit repair. Administrator Zeldin, Secretary Rollins, and Administrator Loeffler wrote in Newsweek that the right to repair, in their words, is common sense extension of fundamental constitutional right to private property. They cited Jefferson, the true foundation of Republican government is the equal right of every citizen in his person and property and their management. This isn't a partisan issue. This administration, the previous administration, a federal judge in the John Deere multi-district litigation case have all reached the same conclusion. Restricting repair is monopoly behavior. Make no mistake about it, there is a lot of money involved in here for just the manufacturers of this equipment. Dealers are in the middle. It's money for the manufacturers. When the National Review, the Trump White House agree with the former at DOJ, it's time to act. Certainly dealers and their employees are an important part of the state's agriculture. I do not deny that. We as agricultural producers value the dealers enormously. But to tip any legislation for 1 out of 50 people in the agricultural industry at the expense of owners of equipment who have bought and paid for sometimes a lot of money seems unfair. And that's why we're here today. Back 2.5 years ago, John Deere did a voluntary recall on their manuals where they said explicitly that owners of equipment could choose who was to repair their equipment. That was John Deere's statements specifically in their manuals. Today, you will hear different words from them. You will hear that this is our right, this is what we do, this is our intellectual property. They have sold this equipment to farmers. There are pieces of equipment from John Deere, by the way, magnificent equipment. I'm not contending that at all, but that can cost $1.2 million. And yet they still want to maintain ownership rights of that equipment, even though they've sold it. The cost of repairs over the last 4 years has gone up twice the rate of inflation, and it's now twice as expensive per acre to repair your equipment than what you spend on fuel on those acres. Time-critical repairs are fundamentally the problem here. Dealers do not and have not for the last 2 decades had enough technicians to manage this equipment. And as it has become more and more technically complicated, they have less capability than is required during either planting or harvesting. This issue is not going to go away. Right now, this year at this time, there are 15 separate states that are considering agricultural right to repair. All 50 states have considered a agricultural right to repair bill or another. 7 have passed a version of right to repair. Colorado passed agricultural right to repair. I will note that John Deere has ignored that law, that they do not provide the tools and the information necessary for independents and farmers to repair their equipment. I urge passage of 1269 and stand with the South Dakota farmers' families so that they, especially in today's time and in today's environment where there's so much pressure on these producers, we ask that you pass this, and I will be around later if you should have any questions.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1269. You have about 9 minutes left. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, distinguished members of the Ag Committee. My name's Doug Somke. I farm in the southeast corner of Brown County, which would be the projects of Brown County, not the best farmland of Brown County. So we do have cattle and sheep and other livestock, horses, so that explains why we are not at the top end of the ag spectrum in Brown County. Everything Willie just told you is exactly true. I had the same stuff in my testimony as what he said. We met with, I was in meetings with others about building this bill and trying to make it as good as we could that wouldn't be something that would be defensive. But from what I've seen in the halls of this chamber, we are the David against the Goliath. What's interesting about it is, United States, we're fighting to get our rights so we can work on our own equipment. But in Europe, they already have them. There are bans against such practice. And there's also bans against higher cost of parts and labor. So what are we doing? What makes South Dakota farmers and ranchers so inadequate that we cannot be trusted to repair our own equipment? This is equipment that we purchased, but apparently, according to this law, we just rent it. It's not really ours. We didn't put this in the equipment, they did. And it is good equipment. Willie's exactly right. But I can tell you on our farm, I've had to wait 3 days different times for a technician to show up to fix a sensor in a DEF equipment. You all know what DEF is? It's the additive to get rid of the smog that California wants us all to get rid of. 3 days I waited for that. And it was a little sensor that I could have replaced myself. And the technician told me that. He said, Doug, if I could have helped you sooner, I would have. But I could have told you how to done this over the phone, but I wasn't allowed to. I couldn't even tell where it was because it comes up in a code. And that's all fine and good. But the fact of the matter is, this is where we're at today. 5 other states have looked at this. Every state across the nation has looked at it at some point. We brought it last year, cleaned it up a little bit more. I think it's a good bill. We've worked very, very hard at this. And again, like I said, we realize we're up against Goliath here, and which I guess is somewhat respectful, that they take so much pride in this that they want to protect it that hard. But also remember that this is exactly what happened to us on the pipeline bill. We're up against David and Goliath there as well. And there are many members that I represent as a Farmers Union president that deal with the same thing I'm dealing with. And this is expensive. In a time when we are dealing with high costs of equipment, high costs of repairs, high costs of everything, and getting nothing back but for our cattle, a good price. This is really devastating and very important. And so I ask you that you pass House Bill 1269. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For their proponent testimony on House Bill 1269. You have about 5 minutes left.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Melissa McCauley, registered lobbyist for Dakota Rural Action. Dakota Rural Action is a citizen organization that's been in South Dakota for nearly 40 years. Dakota Rural Action supports House Bill 1269 because it addresses the high cost of farm equipment purchase and repair, which is key need in economic viability in South Dakota's agricultural producers. Equipment and associated repair costs are one of many barriers of entry to farming for new and aspiring farmers. The average age of South Dakotans agricultural producers right now is 57 years old. So it is imperative that we help the next generation of farmers and ranchers enter business. This bill will help address one of the myriad of issues facing new producers. With that, we hope that you do support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. For their proponent testimony on House Bill 1269. Thank you, sir. Please introduce yourself and give us your short testimony. Mic on, sir. There.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nick Nemick. I'm a farmer from Hyde County, Halliburton. I've got 2 sons-in-law on the farm with me, and we have millions of dollars worth of farm equipment. And new piece of farm equipment costs hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've been stopped more than once because some minor electrical issue, or well, it was a fatal electrical issue because it stopped the machine, but we call and get a tech out, and he comes out and repair, hooks up his computer, punches some buttons on his laptop, and in a short while, he's got it going again. Meanwhile, we were dead in the water. Planting season is a race against Mother Nature. We've only got so much time. Harvest season is the same way. You're racing against the onset of winter, and we just can't afford to be stopped dead in our tracks for something that we could repair if we had the proper software to put on our laptop to hook up to this expensive equipment we've bought. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the proponent testimony on House Bill 1269. Welcome, sir, and I'll remind you I have the hammer in my hand.
Not big enough. Thank you, Committee Chair. Orrin Lesmeister, representing myself, Braid, South Dakota, farmer and rancher. We've been working on this bill in DC now for some time also. I've made many trips out, sat in front of DOJ. We are getting traction there also. Something I'll tell you though, on our side of things is, in rural areas, we do have a problem with just getting somebody out. 75 to 125 miles just to get a technician out. Days on end. Yes, I have a Challenger tractor that they plugged into the other day, and it was a fuse out of the 312 fuses in it. Is that simple? We're not looking to change information in their software here. We're not asking to recode everything. We just want the ability to find out what's wrong with our equipment and if we can fix it. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony, House Bill 1269. Welcome. I think this is your first time in ag testified, isn't it?
Second this
Second,
year.
okay.
Yes,
Good
yes.
to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Jasper Deagle. I'm just here to give a quick me too. I'm a registered lobbyist on behalf of the South Dakota Stock Growers Association, and this is an important bill to them, and we ask for your favorable support. Thank you.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony. We got about a minute left. I don't think there's anybody on remote for 4, is it? Just against. Okay, then we're going to go to opponent testimony. Is there any opponent testimony in House Bill 1269? Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm going to get the chair up here. There. My name is Scott Vanderwall. I'm a corn and soybean producer and cattle feeder from Volga, South Dakota, west of Brookings. I serve as president of the South Dakota Farm Bureau and vice president of American Farm Bureau Federation. And I'm representing South Dakota Farm Bureau this morning. I do have some handouts, Mr. Chairman, if it's acceptable to pass them out to the committee.
Yeah, we lost our pages. Tristan, can you help hand these out a minute when you get a chance?
I'll just put them right here. Well, thank you, members of the committee, for your attention to this issue, but South Dakota Farm Bureau respectfully urges you to oppose House Bill 1269 because we already have an agreement that takes care of this problem. Right to repair has been an important issue for our members for years. Our members have consistently told us that they want timely access to repair information so they can get their equipment back up and running as quickly as possible. Importantly, in about 2021, our members directed us as organization leaders to pursue a private sector, non-legislative solution rather than legislation. At the 2023 American Farm Bureau Convention, after untold hours of work, a memorandum of understanding between AFBF and John Deere was signed. I was there personally. This agreement was the culmination of a multi-year effort to resolve the right to repair concerns without legislation or court intervention. Since then, similar MOUs have been reached with AGCO, Claas of America, CNH Industrial, which is Case IH and Ford New Holland, and Kubota. Under these agreements, manufacturers agreed to provide farmers and independent repair shops with access to the following: diagnostic and repair codes in their meeting, operator parts and service manuals, product guides, the ability to purchase manufactured diagnostic tools, assistance when ordering parts and products, and in regard to the recent EPA announcement, they're working on working that into the agreement as well, as far as working on the diesel exhaust systems. This ensures farmers have the information and tools necessary to diagnose and repair their equipment at a fair and reasonable cost. Now, it's also important to point out what these MOUs do not do. They do not allow modification of equipment in ways that would compromise safety, emission systems, or warranties. They don't allow deletion of diesel exhaust fluid systems, disabling safety mechanisms, or altering engine programming. They preserve manufacturers' intellectual property, including proprietary software and codes. Farmers don't need access to rewrite codes. They simply want the ability to diagnose and fix problems so they can get back to work. You were given a couple examples by the proponents in here this morning, but those problems are addressed. They have access to the technology and information now if they purchase a subscription, which is actually pretty economical. The agreements also establish a direct path for resolving disputes between farmers and manufacturers. American Farm Bureau and the manufacturers meet regularly to review implementation and address concerns. We've asked our members to notify us if there's any problems, and we haven't had anything major yet. That ongoing structure allows issues to be resolved far more quickly than through state consumer protection claims or litigation. If we begin down the path of state-by-state regulation or legislation, we risk creating a patchwork of 50 different laws. This would complicate compliance for manufacturers and ultimately drive up costs. These costs will not disappear. They will be reflected in higher prices for South Dakota farmers and ranchers. Lastly, our members prefer solutions developed within the industry rather than through government mandates. The MOUs are working. They cover about 75% of the ag equipment market, and they are reviewed regularly, and they provide flexibility to address emerging technology much faster than statutory changes can. The bottom line to this is The bill is not necessary and may in fact be harmful. There may be enough differences that the manufacturers will be forced to have different regulations for South Dakota. That'll be confusing, and the cost will be passed on to our farmers and ranchers in this state. For these reasons, we respectfully urge you to defeat the bill, and I'll be glad to stand by for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for their opponent testimony on 1269. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Liv Stavik, Executive Director and Registered Lobbyist for the South Dakota Agribusiness Association. We represent agribusinesses across the state, including equipment dealers. For this reason, I appear today in opposition to House Bill 1269. You've just heard testimony regarding the existing repair access framework, so I won't repeat that discussion. I think it is important to note, however, that the EPA guidance that was issued earlier this month was issued at industry's request. The agency clarified that manufacturers can offer tools allowing equipment owners to temporarily override emission systems when necessary for repairs, so long as the equipment is returned to proper working order. In short, the federal government has provided clear direction supporting repair access and keeping equipment running in the field. Additional state legislation is not necessary. I'd also like to briefly share the dealer perspective. Today's farm equipment is highly complex. Dealers invest heavily in technician training and service infrastructure to keep farmers running, especially during planting and harvest. Our opposition is not about stopping farmers from repairing equipment. It is about maintaining a stable service model. There are equipment dealers online who can speak directly to the operational impact this bill would have on their service departments and customer relationships. I will defer to them on those day-to-day implications. Our dealers are rural employers, community partners, and critical support systems for producers across the state. For those reasons, we urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you for their opponent testimony to House Bill 1269. You've got about 10 minutes left of opponent testimony. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Christine Vinatieri Erickson. I'm here today serving as the president for South Dakota Auto Dealers Association. SDADA represents not just new car franchise, but also truck dealers, RV, and power sports across the state. I'm here today in opposition of 1269. While we understand the desire for equipment uptime and repair flexibility, this bill raises serious concerns for franchise dealers and the customers we serve. Modern agriculture and off-road equipment is no longer purely mechanical. Today's equipment relies on complex embedded software, electronic control. This bill mandates that manufacturers make available software embedded code, diagnostic tools, and the security-related systems to independently repair providers. Improper calibration of safety or emission systems, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, loss of compliance with federal regulations, increased equipment liability issues. Our franchise dealers invest significantly in training equipment, facility upgrades, and certification requirements to meet manufacturer and federal standards. These investments ensure safe, compliant, warrantable repairs. This legislation alters that framework without requiring equivalent standards, accountability, or training for independent repair providers. Additionally, classifying a failure to provide access as a deceptive trade practice introduces expanded litigation exposure into an already highly regulated industry. Dealers and manufacturers operate under extensive state and federal oversight. Adding additional legal risks tied to complex and evolving software systems creates uncertainty that ultimately impacts pricing and service availability. Our off-road and power sport dealers share these concerns. Many of these vehicles covered by this bill included advanced electronic and safety systems similar to automotive platforms. The risks associated with unauthorized modifications or improper repairs are real and significant. We support practical solutions that improve equipment uptime while maintaining safety, cybersecurity, integrity, and regulatory compliance. However, this legislation shifts the balance too far, creates unintended consequences for dealers, manufacturers, and consumers alike. SDADA respectfully asks for your opposition to this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for their opponent testimony to 1269. Welcome, sir. You got about 6 minutes.
Mr. Chair, committee members, Doug Abraham, registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Retailer Association. I'll be very brief. We just want to echo what's previously been said, and in particular, we're incredibly concerned about the potential safety and liability risks. I realize the liability risks have attempted to be addressed by this bill. Nonetheless, if you do have an issue concerning a repair, there's still going to be litigated whether that arose from the original design or the repair. So we're going to be drug into these issues anyways, even with the liability protections that are contained within the bill. What this essentially does is a forced conveyance of your intellectual property and trade secrets. And for the rest of the reasons the prior speaker said, we just encourage your opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1269. Okay, then we have a couple on remote. If the room is empty, Kyle Patton. Are you on there, Kyle Patton?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we have about 5 minutes of testimony left, and we have you and one other to do it. So I'm asking you to keep your testimony as short as you can, and go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know your testimony.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My name is Kyle Patton. I am the Vice President of Service at C&B Operations. We are headquartered in Sioux Falls, South Dakota there, and operate 12 retail locations throughout the state of South Dakota. I'm here today. Thank you for allowing me to join you remotely here. I'm here today to testify against this bill. Primarily for the means that we fully support customers' right to repair. Want to make sure everybody understands that, as well as customers already do have access to everything that we do as a dealership to to repair and maintain their own equipment. We work with approximately 318 independent repair shops throughout our entire network that we operate in. 100 of those are within the state of South Dakota. And these are independent repair shops that we've worked with on a daily basis, whether that be through parts that we sell to them directly or through assisting them with any repairs that they're working on with our customers. Additionally, what hasn't been mentioned here so far is customers' access to what we call Operations Center Pro. So if you go today to John Deere's public website, shop.deere.com, and you do a search for Operations Center Pro. That is a system that independent repair shops and customers can purchase that grants them full access to everything that we have access to as a dealership. This includes schematics, theory of operation, tech manuals, turbo details. They also on shop.deere.com have the ability to purchase all the special tools that they would need. These special tools include the machine interface network or machine interface gateway that allows them to connect their own laptop to a machine and run onboard diagnostics, run special tests. Everything that we have access to as a dealer, customers already have access to today. We work with customers and independent repair shops on a daily basis to keep customers up and running. Additionally, there is becoming more and more onboard diagnostics available. And what I mean by onboard diagnostics, there's been a couple of examples mentioned about a fuse that blew. If you have a fuse that blows on certain machines that are out there in the market, there will be an error code that will come up on your display, and that will in some instances even give you the circuit code on the wire to look at to test for voltage, or the fuse number to look at. So again, thank you today for allowing me to join you remotely, and I'll pass it on to the next gentleman here.
Okay, thank you. Brooke Stevens, we're looking for you. Or Stephens.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Sir, you've got 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
All right, thank you, Chairman. My name is Brooke Stevens. I'm a vice president for RDO Equipment Company. I live in Watertown, South Dakota, and I represent about over 200 professional South Dakotans who work at our 5 locations. We have statewide construction presence with our stores in Aberdeen, Sioux Falls, and Rapid City, and then we add a couple more, and we have pretty much most of the northeast part of South Dakota with Aberdeen, Redfield, and Webster. We are a full service business that supports customers. When I mean customers, I mean our customers, our farmers that purchase the equipment, and our independent repair shops that also work on all of that equipment. We support product sales, parts, and service, both in construction and agriculture equipment. I'll skip a lot of the stuff that's already been mentioned. There's HB 1269 is unnecessary. It's a solution in search of a problem. To be clear, many of our customers are not able to do their own repairs because equipment today is incredibly sophisticated. Our technicians undergo literally hundreds of hours in training just to maintain credentials and stay up to date with all the technology that runs this modern farm equipment and construction equipment. Every producer should have the access to parts, tools, and information they need to keep their operations running. And through tools such as John Deere Pro Service, which we've heard about, our customers have the access to the same exact manuals, diagnostic codes, parts, and tools that we as dealers do. The one thing that sticks out to me that's more personal and more concerning is, and why I oppose this bill, is it creates a tampering risk that puts the safety of our team at jeopardy. If a customer decides to make changes to the machine that changes its intended function, that puts our team members at risk, our repair technicians might not be aware that the customer has done so, and increases the safety to them and our team members. Such things as increased hydraulic pressure, fuel pressure, if that is undetected or unreported, that poses a risk to our team. One of the most important promises I make to my team every day is that they get to work in a safe environment. This bill puts the safe environment at risk. As I said before, our customers can and are maintaining, repairing their equipment in a way that makes sense for them to make their operations successful. Today, we sell over 60% of our parts over the counter. That means 60% of all the parts we sell go directly to the customers for them to repair their machines and not going through our service departments. If you would like to see a demonstration on how customers are able to diagnose and work on their equipment, we invite you to visit our store or take a quick look at our website, personally, rdOequipment.com/DIY, where we highlight the ways that we support our customers' right to repair. In closing, I would respectfully ask that you vote no on HB 1269. Thank you for the time this morning, Mr. Chair, and I will stand by for any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Further opponent testimony on 1269. One last time around the room. Remotes are empty. Tristan? Okay. So with that, would you like a rebuttal? We only do one rebuttal, so this is it. Okay. Welcome. Reintroduce yourself and give us your short rebuttal.
Thank you, Chair Willie Cade. Let me rebut a few things that were made, comments that were made here that are not factual, to be kind. Pro Service is a shadow of the capability that dealers have. I personally bought Pro Service. September last year, we asked it two very important questions. One was regarding safety and the other was emissions. The one on safety in September last year, it was about the separators inside of a combine. They gave us detailed information about problems that were existing and how to repair them, and specific instructions on how to repair it. We did that in January this year, and the exact same question came back with the answer that there are no problems. So Pro Service, an online software program, has been changed by John Deere since it was introduced in August last year. We also did that with the header bolts in a 13.5 liter engine. In September, they said, yes, there's a problem. Here's the specific product improvement program. It is now been removed. Dealers have, for a 9460 tractor, they have 23 different PIPs. If you look at it in Pro Service, there are only 9. So there is no parity, period. Earlier in the testimony, they were saying, we are working so well that we don't need any judicial intervention. John Deere, in their annual report, has on page 27 for their annual report this year has stated that they have begun negotiations with the Federal Trade Commissions to settle the lawsuit. My understanding on the farmer lawsuit is that it will be north of $300 million that they are trying to settle this case for. You don't try to settle a case for $300 million if you haven't done something wrong. Fundamentally speaking, things are being done wrong. The MOU, there were promises made in the MOU that Customer Service Advisor would have the ability to reprogram. It never did. They came out with a new software program for customers, ProService, that was talked about. It does not fully allow for programming of electronic control units within the tractors. It only allows updates. It doesn't allow installing new software. In terms of the EPA announcement, there was never any unclarity on it. It was just John Deere and the manufacturers misusing that particular regulation, 1068-101B1, that said it always said that in plain English, but if you go down to the 6th subparagraph of that, it says that manufacturers are to provide the tools necessary to repair, period. So what you are hearing, and I actually feel bad about this, but what you are hearing is not true, period. And the interesting part for me is if it was true that they fully support farmers' right to repair, then they would provide the full software. They do not, period. And farmers this is important equipment for them that their family uses. They are not going to willy-nilly risk unsafe repairs. To say that that is true is preposterous in my mind, number one. And number two is if you're asking someone to spend $500,000 to buy a tractor and you don't think they're smart enough to figure out how to repair it or when their skill sets have run out, then I'm sorry, you're denigrating your own customers. So please, if there are other questions, Chair.
We'll get to the questions part. This is your rebuttal.
Okay.
We're running out of...
The other thing is that the MOU process is opaque. It is only open to a select few of people of AFBF. Even when I ask the presidents of several state farm bureaus, they have no understanding, they have no visibility into what happens in those semi-annual meetings in terms of updates. And I will note here that only 2 dealers testified. There are only 2 John Deere dealers in the state of South Dakota, and it really speaks to the monopolistic power that is demonstrated here. I also will note that John Deere themselves or Case IH.
Sir, I'm going to hurry you along on your
much.
rebuttal. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move into committee questions. Is there any Representative Gosh?
Stay right there. You had mentioned something about installing new software. So you said the current program that you're allowed helps to update old software.
Correct.
But when you say installing new software, are you talking about software, proprietary software from John Deere that was just created that you're trying to install in the machine?
You can answer the question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Testimony goes through the chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chair.
You're good.
So if you have to physically replace the electronic control unit, a physical device, you need to put the software on it because it does not come with software. That would be programming the ECU. That's what I'm talking about. It's John Deere's proprietary software that's encrypted and can only be installed using the dealer level service software. So it is well controlled. There's no safety risk at all in that. It's just, it's exclusively provided to the dealers and not provided to the independents or the owners of the equipment.
Follow up, state your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when we talk about outside sources like guidance systems, RTK, outside programming, outside monitors even, you could still install that information without needing any of John Deere's stuff. Is that correct?
Go ahead and answer the question.
Thank you, Chair. There are third-party parts, et cetera, that can be installed in some instances if you don't need to involve the control systems that have been engineered by John Deere and others.
Representative Peterson has a question.
Few, if I may, Mr. Chair. First of all, good morning. Thanks for being here. Where do you live? What's your home address?
My home address
You may
is...
answer the question.
Oh, sorry. I apologize, Chair. My home address is Chicago, Illinois. I work on this issue nationally. My in-laws owned a cattle ranch outside of Valentine, Nebraska on the Ogallala Sioux Indian Reservation, so my family is here.
Follow up, Representative, and watch your mic after you ask the question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have a copy of this? If you don't, it would be good if you would grab one so we could talk about it for a second.
I do not.
If you could borrow somebody's. It's
When
the
is it, Representative
MOU.
Peterson? The MOU?
Yep.
Yep.
So a minute ago, you said that the MOU is only available for Farm Bureau customers. I interpret that very differently. Section B says beneficiaries are all farmers and independent repair facilities in the 50 United States. Sounds like we're seeing this differently. Are you maintaining that this is only available for Farm Bureau customers?
You may answer the question, sir.
No, sir. If I said that, I misspoke. What I meant to say is the conversations between manufacturers and Farm Bureau are restricted only to staff at AFBF. That no one knows what conversations have been brought up and what negotiations have or have not happened in those. And when I inquire as a member of a Farm Bureau out of Nebraska, the president of that particular Farm Bureau has told me he has heard no information on what the discussions have been in those semi-annual sessions.
Follow up, or are you good, Representative?
I'll wait for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions from the committee? Okay. Not seeing any more questions. We're going to close public. You're good, Representative? You're good? Okay. We're going to close public testimony. We're going to move into committee action and or discussion. Any discussion and or action from the committee?
I move to the 41st day.
Well, Representative Schuback.
Mr. Chair, I move to the 41st day.
It has been moved by Representative Schuback and seconded by Representative Gosch to move House Bill 1269 to the 41st day. Comments on your motion?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I had this bill and I passed it off to Representative May. And as I dug into this problem, this has been an aggravation for every farmer or rancher who's ever worked on a modern piece of equipment. And in fact, I have my personal guy that does my personal mechanic in the room as well today, so he can attest to this. This came out in January of 2023, the first memorandum of understanding, and then there's been an update in August. And they've given us more permissions to work on the equipment as they've gone along. And so I want to see this play out and see if the memorandum of understanding addresses our concerns. And I do agree with a lot of what has been said, because I personally have gone back in time on my equipment. I've bought older equipment because I've gotten so sick of the new equipment and the lack of access. And a lot of it does come down to sensors and emissions. They're making so much money off the DEF systems and repairing those things. So I think we need to take another step at the federal level in getting rid of the emissions. And all those systems because they're just faulty. And most of the time it comes down to you get a code and you can't delete that code at your level. You've got, now with this new memorandum of understanding, you've got 3 times that you can zero it out, and then it's got to get addressed. And sometimes you still have to go back to a dealer anyway because of the EPA standards. So that's still going to be a headache, and we need to get rid of that stuff. I would love to just make every tractor, every vehicle retroactively able to be deleted and just tear that stuff off of there because it's a mess. With that said, I stand by my move to the 41st day because let's let this play out and see if John Deere, CNH, Claas, all those companies live up to their agreement.
Okay, further comments on the motion? Representative Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll echo those comments to move this to the 41st day. I appreciate all the efforts that have been made, and I appreciate the efforts of the proponents. I just think this isn't the right way to go. This policy's been adopted in one state, Colorado, and I don't know that it's even being implemented there. I think the policies in place are working. We can make them better, but I mean, we just gotta level set the playing field here a little bit. I think there's a lot of misinformation that was brought out today. I clarified a few of those things, but I mean, there's 6 John Deere dealers, not 2 in South Dakota. We just got to be talking about the facts here. The nice thing is, like the good representative said, not all these breakdowns that we have in our farms are these technical electrical issues. I just broke a belt on the fan yesterday on the baler, and that was pretty easy one to figure out. I didn't need this special technology to figure that out. So thankfully it's not all like that, but when it's electrical and the more modern equipment, that's above my pay grade anyway. So, but if you wanted to, and you're an expert at this stuff, you can spend, I believe, $195, $199 a year to get access to all this stuff already. So I think the system works. We don't got to add a new layer of policy in our state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just looked over to my right and I seen Representative Ladner's feeling pretty lonely over there. We've lost most of our committee to other committees. Is there further discussion? Representative Gosh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been a bill that I have supported in the past. In all reality, we run John Deere. We really haven't run into a lot of the same issues. Our downtimes have been good. I make a phone call. They usually walk me through how to fix it. I can order the part. They could get it to me through the multiple locations in my area. I guess my experience with the John Deere operation that I've worked with has been working. It's been working really well. In fact, we've got a few good guys that we could call and they can jump into my computer and tell me exactly what's wrong. I have my favorite radio channel when I combine. It's called the Alarm Channel, and sometimes I just let them ring because, like they said, most of the time your machine breaks down because of a stupid sensor or def anyway. So as long as the machine isn't shooting out oil, I usually just run it. But for that, I'm not going to. All right, we'll support the 41st day motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion to move House Bill 1269 to the 41st day. Okay, seeing no more discussion, we have a motion to move 1269 to the 41st day. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Representative Goodwin, excused. Hunt?
Pass.
Ismay?
Aye.
Ladner?
Aye.
May, excused. Knowles?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Rice, excused. Schubeck?
Aye.
Van Dypen?
Aye.
Whitman, excused. Gosh?
No, call Rice first.
Aye.
Sorry. Okay, Gosh?
Aye.
Overbeck?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have, excuse me. Nine yeas and 4 excused.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. So the motion receiving the votes that needed will send House Bill 1269 to the 41st day. Moving on with the last bill of the day, House Bill 1288, modify the authority of a political subdivision to adopt mining ordinances. Is there any proponent testimony? We will again be doing 15 pro and 15 opponent. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Representative Terry Jorgensen, District 29. Mr. Chair, I do have an amendment.
Okay. Would somebody like, which amendment would that be? Amendment A, 1288A?
That's correct.
Okay, Representative Gosh?
Mr. Chair, I would move to amend 1288 or 1288A.
Second.
It's been moved by Representative Gosh and seconded by Representative Knowles to move Amendment 1288A. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are on 1288 as amended.
All right. May I speak to the amendment and the bill?
Your bill is amended.
Oh, it's amended, so I'm good.
You're speaking to the
All right.
amended bill. Yes, ma'am. Yep, we're good.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All the permission in the world for you to do that.
Thank you for hearing HB 1288 this morning. I bring this bill to you based on the residents of Piedmont and Meade County who have brought concerns directly to me. This bill is targeted, common sense solution to a clear problem exposed by the proposed limestone mine near Piedmont. Residents there suddenly face potential impacts from blasting dust, heavy truck traffic, noise, and groundwater risks with little meaningful local input under current state permitting rules. The issue boils down to one clause in existing law. Under South Dakota Codified Law 45-6B-4, any county or first or second class municipality, and this is in quotes, which has adopted a comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances may adopt ordinances or requirements governing mining operations that don't conflict with state law. The and zoning ordinance requirement is the blocker. Meade County has adopted a comprehensive plan, a guiding document created with public input, but no county-wide zoning, because voters have repeatedly rejected broad zoning proposals at the ballot box. This is true for approximately 17 rural counties across South Dakota, with full zoning, where full zoning remains politically unfeasible. As a result, these counties lack any statutory authority to adopt even narrow, mining-specific ordinances, such as reasonable setbacks from homes, blasting notification schedules, dust and noise controls, haul road agreements, or basic reclamation assurances tailored to local conditions. State mining licenses for sand, gravel, limestone focus primarily on reclamation and worker safety. They do not require mandatory local setbacks, traffic mitigation, or community-specific protections. In unzoned counties, neighbors have no enforceable tools to address those issues. HB 1288 makes one simple change. It strikes the, in quotes, and zoning ordinance language from the codified law. Counties with a comprehensive plan would then have clear authority to adopt targeted mining ordinances, even without general zoning. This is not a power grab or a broad new regulation. It's a narrow carve-out that empowers only counties that have invested in comprehensive planning. It allows site-specific reasonable standards, such as 1,000-foot buffers, operational hour limits, without forcing county-wide zoning. It respects property rights on both sides. Miners can still operate under state permits and licenses, while neighbors are protected from unmitigated impacts. It promotes genuine local control in the least intrusive way possible. So I've heard a few counter arguments, so I want to address them directly. I've heard this isn't fair to counties that already have zoning. Counties with zoning already have tools. They can treat mining as conditional use, add supplemental regulations, or enforce setbacks. Unzoned counties have no equivalent mechanism for mining-specific issues. HB 1288 levels the playing field for property owners and residents, not just for counties. The real fairness is to families facing sudden industrial activity next door. The second objection I've heard: those counties can already act if they have a comprehensive plan. That simply is not true under current statute. A comprehensive plan is advisory. It guides decisions, but it does not grant enforceable ordinance authority for mining. The explicit and zoning tie in 45-6B-4 leaves them powerless. This bill aligns with South Dakota values, limited government, property rights, and letting local communities address local impacts. Full zoning is off the table in many rural areas. Targeted mining ordinances are not. So this removes a needless barrier so counties that have done the work of adopting comprehensive plans can actually protect their residents when mining is proposed. Meade County's situation is real and urgent. Residents deserve tools to address community concerns the state permit process doesn't cover. State permits handle reclamation and safety. Local ordinances can handle noise, dust, traffic, and property values. We're not picking winners. We're giving every county with a comprehensive plan the same basic tool if they choose to use it. HB 1288 isn't about more government. It's about empowering responsible local decision-making in response to real constituent concerns. I respectfully urge a do-pass recommendation and stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the proponent testimony on House Bill 1288. You've got about 9 minutes left.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Gary Deering from Hereford, South Dakota, currently the chairman of the Meade County Commission. I come here today speaking for myself, however. 3 years ago, when I first got put on the Meade County Commission, it was my goal to go forward with a mining ordinance. I was abruptly put to a halt by the state's attorney's office because it's in statute that we are not able to without zoning. Meade County has attempted zoning 2 times in the past, and it's went down considerably by a wide margin. I believe 80-20 the first time, and the second time after state statute was changed for special zoning districts in 2011, it got put down again. As Representative Jorgensen just mentioned, this isn't necessarily about the mine in Piedmont. This is about local control and letting the local authorities put that in their hands. This is not unique. There's other ordinance. We have ordinances all the time within Meade County. We just got done writing one on overweight permits for trucks to protect our roads. And that's what we'd like to do here with a lot of this, is to protect our infrastructure. And the state's not looking out necessarily for our infrastructure. And there's some things with setbacks within that, and I feel it's best laid in the hands of local government. So with that, I appreciate your time, and I'll stand by for questions.
Thank you for the proponent testimony to House Bill 1288.
My name is Bob Burns. I'm testifying for myself as a landowner in Meade County. The state of South Dakota has little in the way of regulation on sand and gravel mining. In conversations with Danner officials, I've come to the understanding, the reasoning behind that. Because there are a large number of mines and they have minimal impact on their neighbors, they choose to let the local governing authorities take care of that. I agree with that. I'm a proponent of local governments having a voice in what happens to their citizens. That is exactly what this bill does. When I first heard of this proposed mine, I called Danner and asked what the regulations were on sand and gravel mining, and I was told the state does not regulate sand and gravel mines. They leave that to the local authorities. I then went to Meade County and learned that they tried to pass a mining ordinance, but were told by the state they were not allowed to. I went back to Danner and asked why they stopped Meade County. 2 days later, I got the answer. Municipalities and counties are not allowed to write ordinances unless they are given specific permission to do that by the state. That permission is only given in state law to counties and cities with zoning. The only change this bill makes to a state law is to strike out the words "and zoning ordinances" in that section and gives the counties permission to adopt mining ordinances and adds that permission to sand and gravel mining. Some would say go home and enact zoning. Meade County passed a special zoning district in 2011, but it was referred by the voters. The residents have made their wishes clear, including our most prominent resident, Governor Roden. One size does not fit all. Counties that must have the freedom to self-determination, but that should not mean they forfeit their right to self-government. Why should a county be forced to make such a major change to the way they govern just to place a few guidelines on sand and gravel mining? Because Meade County does not have zoning, they regulate with ordinances. They can tell you how far your carport has to be from your property line to protect the safety and property values of your neighbors. But they can say nothing about a 350-acre, 50-foot vertical walled mine being dug right next to your property line. Last week you heard testimony on HB 1287 about blasting, and you heard some inappropriate applause from those in the audience in Piedmont. I asked you to forgive that disturbance, but they weren't here because they were worried about a little dust and noise. The map of that mine shows it going right up to their backyards, bordering their church, and changing their lives forever. Property values diminished and their quality of life destroyed. Opponents of the mining bill last week argued that local counties know how to best regulate operations in their jurisdictions. We agree with that. I hope you will pass 1288. Thank you. I'd be available for questions.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony to HB 1288. Sir, in the back, would you please remove your hat? Thank you. Further proponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to opponent. There's none in line, right, Tristan, you said? Okay, opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Ella Bordewijk, and I serve as the Executive Director for the South Dakota Mineral Industries Association. And today I rise in respectful opposition to 1288. This proposed legislation removes the requirement that counties or municipalities maintain both a comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances in order to create ordinances to regulate mining within their jurisdiction, allowing counties and municipalities to create ordinances with only a comprehensive plan. And I think it's important that we distinguish what a comprehensive plan is versus what a zoning ordinance is. A comprehensive plan is a document to outline the goals and the vision of a community, while zoning is the legal regulatory tool to put forth that goal. The comprehensive plan defines what and why, but not the how. This is why zoning comes in. It is the tool that provides the legal framework and the how. This legislation introduces regulatory uncertainty because it does not have to operate on the legal how. That could negatively impact the industries that support development in the state, all the while setting a precedent for a minority of a community to put forth ordinances that could negatively impact any development that they do not agree with. This is a complex process, but there is already a process that works to create ordinances and give local control to communities that adhere to the community's goals and legal frameworks in the state. This proposed legislation introduces uncertainty, hinders regulatory processes that have served the communities for generations, and sets a precedent that legal frameworks are not necessary to create ordinances. It is for these reasons, along with the others you will hear today, that I urge your opposition to HB 1288.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sam Nelson, and I'm a registered lobbyist for the Economic Development Professionals Association and Core Wharf Mine out in the Black Hills. We rise in opposition to this bill today in most respects for the reasons Ms. Bordewijk stated, and I wanted to put maybe a little bit finer point on zoning ordinances, other ordinances, and how and why we do those things those ways. Ms. Bordewijk outlined for you the process of how and why you need to adopt zoning ordinances pursuant to a comprehensive plan. And I would submit to you that the reason that we do that for cities and counties as it relates to zoning is to preclude or prevent exactly what's trying to be asked for here. You need to have comprehensive property use laws, which is what zoning ordinances are. You need to have them be comprehensive in nature and covering the whole gamut of property types and uses, precisely so that you don't have a vocal minority of people pass a specific ordinance targeting a specific use or industry, whether that be a CAFO, whether that be combining at night in the fall, or whether that be a a sand and gravel quarry as we have here. I certainly empathize with the folks out in Piedmont, and I understand that this is stressful for them, but the way to handle this issue is to adopt a comprehensive set of zoning ordinances for land use in your county and then figure out how you're going to deal with this issue. Onesie and twosie ordinances lead to people saying, essentially, folks dictating how others can use their property, and we've had a lot of discussion about that over the last few years here. So we oppose this bill, and I'd be happy to stand by for any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Justin Smith. I'm an attorney from Sioux Falls, the registered lobbyist today for the Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. We're here because this bill would apply to any sand and gravel mining in the whole state, including in and around Sioux Falls and Minnehaha or Lincoln counties. This new law will allow counties and cities to adopt stricter ordinances than what exists in the state statute or regulation. The amendment removed safeguards that could have allowed mining operations to advance despite administrative delays and other roadblocks at the county or city levels. More laws and restrictions at the local levels will make sand and gravel mining more difficult and expensive. Sand and gravel mining is crucial for roads and communities across the state. As you make those operations more expensive, taxpayers foot the bill to obtain materials needed for construction and maintenance of these crucial roadways. This bill will result also in a patchwork of standards on these operations throughout South Dakota. We'd ask you to please defeat the bill. I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Garth Wadsworth with Elevate Rapid City. You know me as one of those dirty economic development guys, but in a previous life, I have worked for a city planning department and planning district on these exact kinds of projects. Let's be clear what is being asked for today. We are looking to establish a new legal mechanism for the denial of private property rights. So, for the longest time, adopting a comprehensive plan and implementing zoning ordinances has been the mechanism used to put restrictions and limitations in place to prevent the full use of private property. The state has a vested interest in balancing private property rights with health, safety, and general welfare of a community. And so they establish a process, a bare minimum, that a county or municipality has to go through in order to place those limitations on that private property. And so far that has worked. It has served us well. You need to have a comprehensive plan, which is a set of values. We value a certain kind of lifestyle, and then a set of legal ordinances. What this would do is say you do not actually need to go through that. You have this separate mechanism that we can use despite having ignored what we have in place to limit the use of private property. What's next? Today it's a mine. Tomorrow could be anything else, anything a vocal minority decides they do not like. I think it's worth emphasizing some of the arguments that the proponent or the prime sponsor of the bill made. To say that the residents of Meade County did not want to adopt zoning is an admission. They had the opportunity and they decided not to. They decided they were going to roll the dice and live with the risks of having an incompatible use come in next door. They have the same access to the legal mechanisms to make these kinds of decisions and put these protections in place. They chose not to. Would ask for your opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deb Mortensen, representing the Associated General Contractors. We too have concerns about this bill and encourage you to oppose it. We feel that passage would create a hodgepodge of mining rules to stifle one industry, construction aggregate mining, whether it's a large commercial pit or the pit on your farm or ranch. Mining operators and pit owners could be dealing with multiple jurisdictions at odds with each other for permitting, depending on the location of the pit. We encourage you to let local planning and zoning work and encourage you to defeat the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony, House Bill 1288.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ryan Budmeyer with the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We rise in opposition to House Bill 1288. Basically a Me Too here, but South Dakota's long resisted the patchwork regulatory approaches that we've seen in other states. We'd ask you to oppose HB 1288. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Chairman Overweg and members of the House Ag and Natural Resources Committee. Mike Lees with DANR's Minerals Mining and Superfund program. DANR opposes HB 1288 because it bypasses zoning requirements already in law. I think a lot of this has been reflected in previous testifiers opposing this. Our specific concerns are that counties are limited to the powers expressly conferred upon them by statute. SDCL 11-2-13 provides authority for counties to adopt zoning ordinances to regulate industry, including mining. SDCL Chapter 11-2, County Planning and Zoning, includes an extensive framework of requirements, including establishing a planning commission, establishing criteria for conditional use, and local public notice and hearing requirements. If Meade County is granted special authority under the mining statutes to regulate mining, we're concerned that their local mining ordinances may not meet the requirements of SDCL Chapter 11-2, or they may conflict with state mining laws. HB 1288 attempts to fix a local problem that is better addressed by Meade County enacting zoning ordinances. I urge you to vote no on HB 1288.
Thank you, sir. Further opponent testimony to House Bill 1288. Seeing none and none online, would you like a rebuttal, Representative? Thank you. Reintroduce yourself and give us your rebuttal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Terry Jorgensen, District 29. And a couple of points. One is we already have a patchwork throughout the state. We already have, let's see, Rapid City has some strict zoning and some ordinances related to mining and the spearfish, and all across the state. In fact, there's only 17 counties in the state that don't have zoning. This basically is about local control. We talk about local control all the time. I'm kind of baffled at all the people that came up, because there are some of the people in the mining industry that I actually talked to when I was developing this bill that kept insisting to me that Meade County didn't have to have zoning, that they already had this authority to have these ordinances in place. We are talking about elected county commissioners putting some common sense ordinances in place, and the state in statute, because they don't have zoning, they don't have county-wide zoning, is basically saying, no, you can't do that when it comes to mining. Although you heard earlier that we do have that happen in other areas. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to have some common sense ordinances in place to protect citizens. This is not anti-mining. This does not supersede state law. If we take this out, we still have to adhere to state law. So I don't understand that argument either. But I just want to encourage you to allow the county commissioners, who are elected officials, who tried to do this and were told by the state's attorney they couldn't because of this one section in law. Let's give local control to those elected officials, and let's come up with some common sense ordinances that address mining. It's that simple, and I will stand by for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we are going to move into committee questions. Representative Van Dypen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the prime sponsor.
Oops. Getting away that easy. State your question, please, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. According to your testimony you just gave us, it's about local control, which would be Meade County creating zoning ordinances. But I also heard the number of 80% of the people spoke and said they did not want zoning ordinances in that county. They don't want people to tell them what to do. Would this new bill circumvent what the voice of the people already was at the last election?
Go
Mr.
ahead
Chair,
and answer.
Thank you. Do I need to reintroduce myself, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, Representative Terry Jorgensen, District 29. Thank you for that question. The people did not want countywide zoning, but there are other ordinances, and I think that would be a great question to ask the county commissioner.
You good, Representative, or you want to follow up? Okay, any more committee questions? We're on committee questions. Representative Peterson.
One for the county commissioner, Mr. Deering. Or Commissioner Deering, thank you.
State your question, Representative.
Has Meade, first of all, thank you for coming today. It's good to hear from your perspective and what you guys have been working through. I really do appreciate it. Has Meade County considered putting another vote out to the public about zoning the county?
Mr. Chair.
Please introduce yourself and answer the question.
Yes. Gary Deering, Meade County. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but there's always that consideration. This has come up a number of times. I've only been on the commission for 3 years now, but this is coming up more and more. We obviously solar energy keeps coming up. This mining issue keeps coming up. We had a gun range. I think you guys know quite well about that was put in, that there would be, I'm not going to deny that it would be easier to manage with zoning. We tread on that very carefully from the commission standpoint because this got killed twice in referendum. Now, as you know, that comes back on the counties when things get referred, that we have to put up the vote, and all the expense goes to the counties. So there's no doubt there are people, I've got to be very careful because I think there's some Meade County residents that may throw things at me when I bring up the word zoning, but nonetheless, there's no doubt that is looked at more and more, and we're hearing more and more that it would be favorable. With that said, realistically, to put zoning ordinances in would take a considerable amount of time. This mining issue comes up. I don't have any falsehood that even if we would pass an ordinance, which takes 2 hearings, 2 readings, excuse me, and usually an ordinance can take about a year to pass. So even if we were to pass an ordinance today, I'm not so sure it would protect what's going on in Piedmont right now. But with that said, I think it's important to look at that, again, this becomes a local control issue. And so I'm sorry, Representative Peterson, I'm trying to answer your question the best I can. So yes, there's obviously things, zoning keeps coming up more and more, and it's probably more favorable. I think it was 80-20 in 2005 against zoning. So that was a big no. The commission at that time in 2011 looked at maybe special zoning districts. So I believe on the special zoning districts, that law, that statute, I can't recite the number right off the top of my head, but that was passed for Meade County because we saw a considerable amount of growth along the I-90 corridor. Again, the commission brought that forward in 2011, and it was denied again by referendum. So from a commission standpoint, just talking to the commissioners, it would be more favorable if it would come forward by the citizen-led, because like I said, if we bring it forward, spend a year, maybe 2 with it, and then it gets referred, that's a considerable amount of time and cost.
Okay, you good, Representative? Okay, further questions from the committee? Representative Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, is he here? Oh yeah, he's hiding behind the pole over there. Go ahead and state your question.
Okay, so I wanted an attorney, and I'm picking on you. If a county were to develop an ordinance, let me put some background. In many situations in multiple counties, a county will go out, you do put the expenses forth to find gravel. Let's use Walworth County, for example. They find it, they do all the exploratory service. The landowner gets then a bid from a private company, which is higher than the county can provide, and therefore goes with the private company to allow the mineral rights for harvesting gravel. Would an ordinance in this bill help a county to limit that?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Representative Gosh, here's what I would say. The ultimate decision on whether or not a landowner deals with the county or deals with the private company is up to the landowner. Could a county put in place an ordinance that says, essentially, I think you'd have to use eminent domain. If the county wanted to take the gravel or the sand that was on that private landowner's property for some kind of purpose, I almost think they'd have to use eminent domain. Again, if it's a private landowner and I own the gravel or you own the gravel and you get two different bids to buy your gravel out, I think it's completely up to you as the private landowner, and no ordinance could do anything about that without risking the U.S. Constitution's contracts clause.
Follow up? Go ahead. State your
Yes,
question.
okay, let me change this. Could they put a ceiling on the price?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, again, I don't think you can control the price which a private landowner is going to be willing to accept for their own private property to sell something that they're selling. I think price fixing is not something that we can do here in South Dakota or nationally even.
Good. Stay right there. I have a question for you. And I'm going to bring this up. I think I know the answer, but I just want to know for sure. In South Dakota, one of our biggest issues is that most landowners don't own their mineral rights, me included. How does this affect someone who lives on a piece of property? If this bill is passed, how does it affect someone living on a piece of property that does not own their mineral rights?
Mr. Chair, it is possible there's somebody, not possible, it's almost certain that anybody else in this room can answer this question with more authority than I can. We're getting into areas that I know very little about.
If you're not comfortable, it comes to my head.
Here's what I can tell you. Again, if a private company owns the mineral rights on your land, and they're the ones then that have the power to make the deal. In other words, the same answer I gave to Representative Gosch would apply in this situation. The government could not come in and tell that private company that owns the mineral interests, here's how much you can and cannot charge for that particular asset. So I think, again, I don't think that the county can make price-fixing ordinances to control private landowners, even if it's the mineral rights, use of their own property.
Thank you. Yep. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but it just hit my head. Follow-up questions. Representative Knowles. For the commissioner? Yes, okay.
I didn't snag you while you were still up here. So you've talked a lot about how Meade County has referred the two zoning or laws you've brought. If this bill is passed and you adopt a comprehensive plan, could that also be referred?
Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead, reintroduce yourself and answer the question, please.
Yeah. Gary Deering, Meade County. To my knowledge, anything it might have been better suited to ask the attorney, but to my knowledge, anything can be referred by a public entity. So yes, that can be referred to my knowledge. We do have a comprehensive plan, which does take a considerable amount of time to pass. That goes, has to have some community hearings, and again, it has to have two readings to pass the commission. I made the mistake as a new commissioner at the time to amend our comprehensive plan. When I say made the mistake, I didn't realize it was simple. Agriculture is very near and dear to me. I'm a rancher from Hereford, and so I wanted some more ag within our comprehensive plan. So I amended that, not realizing I would have done it anyway, but that has to go back to our planning board and then come back for approval, and then come back. So it took, I added another about 2 months to that process by amending about 2 words within that comprehensive plan. So again, a comprehensive plan is not as strong as zoning. I'm not going to deny that, but with that said, it is a plan that the county sets forth.
Representative, you have a follow-up question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions from the committee? Representative Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the prime.
Go ahead and state your question, Representative Rice.
So what we're doing here is we're adopting comprehensive plan and crossing out zoning ordinance. How? So it sounds like the comprehensive plan will take a while for the process to work. How does that help these counties, the 17 counties that don't have zoning plans? Is that something? I mean. Does that make any sense? I'm sorry. Yeah, just trying to figure out, how that's going to help these counties.
Can you reintroduce yourself and then answer the question if you can, please?
Mr. Chair, Representative Terry Jorgensen, District 29. Meade County already has an approved comprehensive plan. It would just be, as Mr. Deering already said, that it's, even if we were to be able to put in ordinances, it's still going to take quite a while to get that passed because it has to have a hearing, and there is a process for that as well. Thank you.
Are you good, Representative? Okay. Further questions from the committee? Last chance. Seeing none? Okay. We are going to close public testimony, and we are going to move into committee discussion and/or action on House Bill 1288. Representative Van Dypen.
I would move the 41st day.
It has been moved by Representative Van Dypen and seconded by Representative Peterson to move House Bill 1288 to the 41st day. Comments on your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've heard pretty openly that the voters in Meade County have said they do not want zoning ordinances. 80 to 20 on 2 different votes. We want to keep it in local control, so now we're going to lessen the requirement that the state has to have zoning ordinances, and we're going to try to circumvent what's already in statute. And we're going to apply that statewide where we don't have issues in other parts of the state. Sioux Falls has mines going all the time. They have zoning ordinances. Meade County, like I said, has openly said they don't want zoning ordinances. I don't think the state should go against what the people out there have said, and now we're going to force ourselves onto them by passing this new law. I just think it's a bad precedent to set.
Okay, further discussion. Representative Peterson.
I'll echo, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll echo those comments. I think this bill would put the cart ahead of the horse a little bit in Meade County. I mean, as we've talked about extensively, they have not voted in zoning ordinances or zoning plan. So because they're not zoned, they cannot currently put in these ordinances and requirements. And so bypassing that, the wish of the people, and putting these private property restrictions on property, I think is out of order for us to just bypass that local control decision. So I think if the community has changed their opinions on zoning, they should go back and they should have a public vote, zone the county, and then implement these rules. Because I cannot imagine, we have, as we've talked about in this committee, and many of you aren't always in this committee, we have conditional use permits on our egg operation. I cannot imagine having conditional use permits that we operate our farm for decades built upon a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan is not legal statute. These business decisions, property rights decisions, should be built based on zoning legal statutes and not a comprehensive plan that can be changed every 5 or 10 years in a much less restrictive way than changing a legal statute is line by line, which a county does. So again, I appreciate the concerns, and I really commend the representative for bringing this bill on behalf of her constituents, because this is a big issue. But I think we got to go back and look at this at the local level. So that's why I encourage everybody to vote yes on the 41st motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment on the motion for 41st day? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on House Bill 1288 to move it to the 41st day. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Representative Goodwin, excused. Hunt?
No.
Ismay?
No.
Ladner?
Aye.
May, excused. Knowles?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Rice?
No.
Schubeck?
Aye.
Van Dypen?
Aye.
Whitman, excused. Gosh?
Aye.
Overwig?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 7 yeas, 3 nays, and 3 excused.
Okay, received the amount of votes it needed. 7, just. House Bill 1288 will go to the 41st day. Okay, committee, that's it for today. That's all the work I have for you. Unless somebody else has something, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Representative Gosh, seconded by Representative Knowles. For us to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.
SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from peer. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.